all those numbers. This graph tells you the total revenues collected for fiscal year 24 are $4.2 million. And you can see the majority is your fines and forfeitures. There's a few donations. There's insurance and premium tax retirement, burglar alarm, other charges for services, and then various miscellaneous type revenues. So this slide represents the actual expenditures for fiscal year 24 and the adopted budget for 25. The police are approximately 50% of the total expenditures for the general fund. So as you can see, these are the various departments that are funded in the general fund: city commission, city manager's office, governmental affairs, HR, just various ones. And then I highlighted the police so you can see the budget for the police, the actual and the budget. And then the total budgets, the actual in fiscal 24 general fund expenditures was $101.8 million. And the budget for fiscal year 25 is $106.9 million. So the general fund is primarily personnel costs, or 70% of total cost. Operating expenses are 25%, with capital of 1%, and grants and aids and other expenses of 4% of total cost. So if you take a look at the bar graph, that puts it in perspective, your personnel. And also you can see on the circle graph, personnel. So general fund is primarily people. This slide provides a 3-year summary of the police pension cost. For each officer, percent of his or her salary into the police pension plan. Annual dollar contribution is legally required to be budgeted and paid by the city. The plan funded ratio is the ratio of the funding value of assets to the actuarial liabilities. So back when I talked about the bond rating agency, Standard & Poor's, Fitch, and Moody, they look at this plan funded ratio. And the difference is the liability that the city has on the books. For fiscal year 26, for every officer, 40.28% of that salary will be paid toward a pension. And the anticipated dollar contribution by the city is $8 million or $8,040,000. So what we do is every year we have an actuarial study that determines what this contribution is, and this is legally required that we have to budget it. The actuarial study takes the rate of return earned in the portfolio. So right now the pension board has voted that 6.5% is the actuarial rate. If it comes in over, if your interest earnings come in over, that's a good thing. If it comes in under, that's a bad thing. And what the actuarial people do is they smooth that over a number of years, so you don't take a hit all in one year or a gain all in 1 year. Another element of actuarial contributions are your salary increases, the number of terminations within the department, the number of retirements, and then the number of deaths with continuing beneficiaries. So everything is taken into consideration as they determine what our contribution must be.
Can we go back to the contribution? That comes from the general fund, correct?
Yes. So the police are funded, I would say 100% in the general fund. So when I say general fund, we're talking, that's where your money is. This slide gives a financial picture of the City of Sarasota's police department activity for fiscal year 24. And again, that's ending September 30th, 2024. The net cost of the department is the equivalent to the ad valorem or our property taxes that are collected by the city. The city collected 45.8 million in ad valorem, and the net cost of the police is 45 million. So what I did is I took the graphs you've seen before, I listed all of the revenues that are contributed specifically by police events, and then the expenditures that are contributed to police activity to get the 45 million. Just to wrap up the general fund as a whole, financial summaries provided. Of the total 102.1 million revenues, 4.2 million were received from specific police sources. Of the total 101.9 million expenditures, 49.3 can be attributed to police costs. The unassigned fund balance for fiscal year 23-24 is 28.7%. So you can see a number to take with you because I'm fixing to reference it again. The unassigned fund balance at September 30th, 2024 was 29.1 million. And this slide gives you the components of the general fund's fund balance. And if you think about a balance sheet, the fund balance are the reserves. This is what we have, that it's the assets minus our liabilities. The previous slide indicated an unassigned fund balance of 29.2 million. This slide provides the components of the entire general fund balance. Under GASB statement number 54, fund balance in governmental funds is classified into 5 components: non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned, each reflecting the constraints on how the resources can be spent. As you see, we have non-spendable, 683,000, committed, which includes our revenue stabilization, 3.3 million. The St. Armand's Business District is a reserve left over from that district that sunsetted of 725,000. And then assigned. These are primarily encumbrances that are rolled over from the previous year, 2.5. That gives us an unassigned of 29.2 with a total fund balance of 36.4 million. Any questions here?
I'm sorry, that's basically reserves that are being held back in case of emergencies, or what's
Unassigned do not, our revenue, or excuse me, our reserves that we have not put any claim on for future payments. So when we work on the 26 budget, we're going to start with that 29.1 and then revenues minus expenditures, and we'll come back to it. Everything else on this page, the non-spendable, committed, and the assigned, that's money that we can't touch because it has another restriction on it.
That's all as of September 30th, 2024, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't make money that's as it audited as of that date. Doesn't mean that money's actually in the accounts like today, which is how it happened.
Well, we've got 6 months of activity.
Yeah.
A very good point. It's going to be a good segue into my next slide. So we've reviewed everything that happened as of September 30th, 2024. Well, Hurricane Debbie, as you know, happened on August 5th with an estimated damage of 1.6 million. Hurricane Helene happened on 9/26/24, which was very unfortunate, right close to our fiscal year end. And you see it only an estimated damage of 285,000. That's because Hurricane Milton came so fast after that on October 9th with an estimate of 48.6 million. FEMA allowed us to just stop where we were on our payments for Helene, and then everything became the cost of Milton. In the chart, you can see the numbers that we booked on our general ledger so far. We have expended to date 6.9 million, and we have encumbered, which means that we have POs outstanding that we need to spend, about 8.2. That's a total of $15.2 million. These are all expenses that would cost that we did not anticipate when we built the budget for fiscal year 25.
Quick question. Does that include the salaries of officers who are mandated to work during those events? Are they categorized to those as an expense?
That, yes.
Okay.
Because you probably filled out timesheets and stuff. So
Sure.
all of that is submitted. And the city is contracting with Tetra Tech, I believe, to help us with all of the FEMA costs and reimbursements and
Okay.
lots of tracking. Payroll is keeping track of all those hours. So it's pretty much a nightmare.
Okay.
So,
The technical term?
yeah. So FEMA, because it was so bad, FEMA upfronted the cities. Normally, what happens when you have a hurricane, you just pay for it, and then maybe 2 or 3 years later, you'll get reimbursed by FEMA. But this was so devastating that FEMA was able to upfront the city, and we got 7.9 million, which really helped with the 15.2. That still leaves us a deficit of 7.4. And I can tell you, Doug Jeffcoat is still submitting invoices for cleanup. And they do estimate once everything is done, it's going to be about $48 million. So right now we are using fund balance of 7.4. FEMA will reimburse us. We hope 75% at least, sometimes 85%. Some of the items will be 100%. But as far as personnel is concerned, police would be, they would be covered, but staff, like my building department or finance or any of us, we're not covered. We just work.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a lot of specific rules for FEMA.
Sure.
So as I'm going into the budget for fiscal year 26, right now I have this deficit of 7.4 million. And I don't know if you've heard me say it before. GFOA recommends that we have a reserve balance for a ratio of expenses to unassigned fund balance between 15% and 25%. This is going to knock me down to about 20% with just this 7.4 deficit. As more invoices roll in, then it'll probably be worse. But there's hope because FEMA will reimburse us. We just don't know the timing of it. And, how much money do they have? How many cities got hit?
So predictions for 2024, 2025, correct?
So the storms hit at the end of 24. I really didn't have any liabilities to book for fiscal year 24 because we hadn't got any of the invoices in. So it's hitting the fund balance. So we didn't budget for it. It's hitting the fund balance in fiscal year 25. So now I've started the process of working on the budget for 26, and I'm taking these costs into consideration in where I start. So it's going to affect my starting balance to get to the end when we adopt fiscal year 26 budget.
Which is October 1 of 25.
25, right?
And you said it usually takes FEMA 2 to 3 years on average to reimburse?
It could, yeah. Sometimes they're faster, sometimes, we're getting reimbursements from Ian right now, and I did, yeah. So, which is good. I'll take anything to get it.
Right.
By law, is there a certain amount? I heard or read that it was your total fund balance for unfunded. The amount you could have unfunded or undesignated funds was 25%. Does that sound right?
So the GFOA, that's the Government Finance Officers Association, it's nationwide. It recommends that each locality have between 17 and 25%. That means that unassigned fund balance to your total expenditures.
Is there any penalty if it's over that?
No. Here's the deal though, it's politics. The city's not in this to make money. If it's too high, then are we charging our citizens too much for their ad valorem, their property taxes, or their fees and services? And if it's too low, how are we in operating concern? How do we keep going? So there's a very happy medium. I always, in my skill, if any of you have heard when I do the budget presentation, we like to be above the 25. We like to be between 25 and 30. And the reason is because of Milton. We live on the coast and we don't know when we're going to get wiped out. So I think it's, as a finance director, I like for us to be in that 25 to 30 range because of circumstances of our location where we're at.
Yes, with the village rate staying the same, I guess the one thing that changed though is the taxable values of the city. Do you know what the increase in value is going to be like from last year to this year with all the different developments going on?
So the property appraiser, what they do is on June 1st, they give us a pre-estimate of what the increase is going to be. And then on July 1st, they give us an official estimate, and that's what we base our budget on.
So that's okay.
Yeah. And then in October, they have a final. And then May, after everybody's gone to the special magistrate and asked for reductions or whatever, then we have a final. So it's a big process. Right now, we're in March, and I look at the state estimates, and the state puts out what they estimate for each county. Traditionally, it's been pretty close, but sometimes it's low. But that's what I would rather build a budget on, something that's low. I don't want to have any deficits.
Just see the fact that these recent hurricanes is there like a standard that you guys are putting in terms of like how you consider like budgeting based on the effects of these recent ones versus the prior ones? Like, I guess does like that value change just based off of like hurricanes the year prior, or because it obviously there was a pretty big effect.
Property appraiser, where they assess values.
Well, just like risk and like how much you are budgeting for like that
I think that's
situation.
probably going to be our property insurance. That will be affected. The property appraiser, the assessed values of the property won't hit until probably 2 years down the line, because the property, when they give me the assessed value for July 1st, it'll actually be in arrears. It's calendar year 2025. So they're always 1 year behind.
So big capital improvements like the sewer lift station on Mount Street and potentially giant performing arts hall. Would that be funded by bonds? Is that how we pay for those big? Because we don't have, like.
Yeah, we don't have that much money.
So there's other revenue
We would definitely issue debt.
for capital things like new sewer pipes and stuff like that. That's
Right.
bonds are put out for those funding sources, I guess.
And just I mentioned this earlier. So water and sewer is a perfect example. Water and sewer, when they have huge projects, they issue revenue bonds. And what that means, that people who pay utility bills, part of that goes to pay specifically for the sewer system. That doesn't have to go to the voters. That's specifically for utilities. Or they're talking about the Performing Arts Center. That's going to be the TIF, or the revenue bonds from the ticket sales. Any other questions? Thank you.
It's all information online, the website. That or
Yes, and I can tell you that our financial statements will be posted to the website on March 31st. And we were presenting them to the commission on April 21st. So the financial statements aren't out there yet, but they will be shortly. So, you're welcome.
Any other questions before she exits?
Will we be able to get a digital copy of this emailed to us? just so we can get it out to our members.
Kelly, do you have about just maybe a few minutes for Brian to just flip through this and then see if he has any questions for you? Or maybe we can reach you by phone if he does, if you need to go on another or email. If that works.
I'd rather do it in a meeting, taking the questions for, boss, so we can wait, while I want to look through it. Take a caucus real quick, and then just read questions.
Maybe like 20 minutes.
That's fine. Sure.
Sounds good.
You can always.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Feel like a celebrity getting a personal,
I know, right?
presentation by the minister.
Well, thank you. That's a good compliment.